Hello, this is Derek Townsend. I'm in your IT354 class. This is video 2, and this time we're going to be covering everything from weeks 3 to 4. So here's my code that we're going to be going through today. So we're going to start off with named functions, or just in general, we're going to start with functions, but this is going to be specifically about named functions. So, your normal named function is pretty much just this. It's your function, the name of the function, and your parameters here. And you return whatever, don't return, or console log, whatever, or something along those lines. So if we run this, so we're calling it here, you call it by saying the name of the function, parentheses, parameters it takes in, closing parentheses. And when we put in 1 and 2, like run this function right here, it should add the two numbers together. So if we put in 1 and 2, it's return 3. So when we run it, it returns 3. So this one is pretty straightforward in terms of functions. So let's just do that. So we have function expressions are next. Function expressions are like named functions, but a bit different because it allows you to basically use latent const, which lets you not be subject to hoisting, which is useful in some cases, or most cases I would say. You see stuff similar to this like in React, but mostly you see more so with arrow functions, but we're going to focus here. So same thing, we have the name of the function, or of the variable, which will have the function inside of it. It'll be subtract. We have the parameters here. Have function declaration there, and we are returning num1 minus num2, and then we're printing it out here. So if we put in to subtract function 1 and 2, it should return -1. 1 minus 2 is -1. All right. So this is the way, just general structure of function expression, very useful. Now into arrow functions. So I have several ways that these could be written here, because they all have their, arrow functions are fairly new. They were added like ES6 or one of the ES1 ones, but like they were added in, and they're fairly unique because something that like wasn't really mentioned in class, but like we'll go over later. But yeah, so to start off with, you can write it very similar to the function expression, except you don't need the function, like actual declaration of function here. You can just write it out like this. So divide num1, num2, take in your two parameters and return them. And we're returning there divided, and this should return 0.5. We'll run this all. We'll just go through the code first and then run it all at once, because they should be properly divided. So another way you can write the arrow function is if you only have one parameter, you don't need the parentheses. You can just put it in right there. You can just like have it there and then return it, whatever the value is. So this is like const square. That'll be the name of our arrow function. It'll take in the parameter of 1 and it will return the squared value of whatever you put into it. So we have square 2. Yeah, okay. So this should return 4. If we put in 2 squared, it should return 4. And then we have const cube. This is the last way you can write it. And this essentially is like a very compressed way of writing your code. I don't think it's the most readable, but at the same time, it's like if you're writing a lot of code and you're trying to save time, you can do it this way, where the only requirement is that so basically you have, like, once again, we're taking in one parameter. And this time, since it's all on one line, we could just simply like keep it all on one line. We can we don't have to put in the, what are they called? Curly braces? Yes, curly braces. And yeah, so it's just very clean and simple. Then we have console log right here, console log cube. This will cube the value, so yeah, times 3, 2 to the third power here, and we'll return 8. So let's run these. It should give us, so let's select this one first. All right, divide. Oops, yep, divide should return 0.05. Then we have square. This returns 4. And cube returns 8. When we're cubing 2, returns 8. So, now to move on to the other topics, let's start with optional arguments. Optional arguments are pretty much what they sound like, but not quite. So, because there is something else in JavaScript, or is it Ruby? I don't know, but yeah, there are other things where you have like default values, but we're not talking about that. So, Optional arguments are essentially the thing that just JavaScript's way of helping the coder out. So in the function print name here, we are taking in one parameter, and everything else is and it'll print out this first name. So like print name, we're gonna put it in the first name, and then it's going to pretty much just do that. It's just gonna print out your first name. Like hello, like if this were Dave, like let's go here. So Dave. So we have print name Dave 540. So this will print out hello Dave, and it will do this because JavaScript ignores all your additional parameters. Like all the things that you add more on to, or like accidentally put, like let's say you accidentally put these two in, that no longer, it doesn't care. It just will take in the first parameter and that's it. And just something else here that I will notice it's this is just like JavaScript function in general. Like if you put in there nothing in there, it will return undefined most of the time unless you're doing certain things with it. Then it could get like return more errors than you intended. But yeah, so you can put in as many parameters as you want and it won't care. It'll only care about the first value and that's it. So when we run this, it should say hello Dave. And it also right here, this one should return hello undefined. So same difference. So it's not same difference. It's like this basically prints out what we expected it to. I don't really know much else to say about it. That's yeah, optional arguments. I don't like relying on this because if I do rely on it, that means I do not understand the functions I am working with, and it could cause errors. So I just don't tend to work with it. I try not to do it on purpose, at least. REST parameters. So where is the end of this? Right here. Okay. So in our REST parameters, essentially it takes in all the values that like let's say let's say right here. Let's just bit easier to play this way. So it takes everything, all your parameters, and puts them into an array. Like you can enter in one parameter or 100 parameters into the function, and it'll put it into an array. That's pretty much it. And preferably, you try and keep it all the same data type because, like, if you're processing data this way, you probably should keep it all the same data type because it could lead to some errors. It's very good, like, if you want to process a bunch of like print off a bunch of names, you're like print off a bunch of information really quickly, and if it's all the same and not really anything unique or special about the values, then it's super easy to just go through it. So right here in this function, we have it printing names. It's taking takes in a bunch of names, and then it just console logs all the names, saying hello, 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 over and over again. Hello blank, hello blank, hello blank. But yeah, so we have the for loop going through this, which I think it was called like an advanced for loop, but it's just basically like other languages have already done this, and JavaScript just finally implemented it itself. So this should print off each of the names right here, like hello Dave, Jane, John, Satania. Um, should be used to like also the rest parameter should be used as the last thing. Should be the last thing in your argument. So if we do this again, let's not do. I don't have to actually go through it, but like, well, let's say if we added something after it, like let's say word. Let's say if you add word after it, it'll because this is first in line, it will consider all of this part of the names, right? Because it has no way to distinguish from this one and this one because it just like you have no way of specifying like I only want everything after the first like 5 inputs to be considered names and the first and everything after that to be considered word. You would need to put word first in order for them to be seen as different. So now if we take our example here, it will only print then Jane, John, and Satania instead. So let's do that first. Jane, John, Satania. And because we didn't have Word doing anything, it just ignored it basically. But now if we do it like as it's supposed to be run, it should print off all the names. But yeah. Also to show off Word again in this position, like right here, we can try and print Word or console.log Word. dot log word. And when we do that, it's going to probably say undefined. Ooh. Oh, wait, no, it's just, okay, I guess JavaScript just forces you to do that. Okay, yeah. So, no, I shouldn't have to worry about it. It just errors out anyway. I couldn't remember which way it went, if it like forced you or just threw, like it would just leave it blank. But yeah, that's nice that JavaScript does it for you. So, once again, Dave Johns is telling you, and Word is left out in the cold. All right, so let's move on to scope. Scope, I have two examples here that should help explain it. The first example kind of just gives a general overview. The second example I like a bit more for, because I feel like actually I like nested functions more to explain it, but it's kind of, I wanted to do two separate examples to make it a little bit easier on myself. So let's start off with example one. Let's comp this out, and we'll come back to it once we're done. All right, so we have let height equal 2.1, and then we have the function print height. Height, it takes in the parameter height, and it prints out your height 10 centimeters tall. And then we're putting in here 1 centimeter tall. They're 1 centimeter tall, very small. Don't know if there are no human beings that small. Yeah. So we have your height centimeters tall, and when we print this off, it first looks in within its scope, right here within the scope of the function, and then outward. But that doesn't always work properly, or it works properly, but it doesn't like that. It will, like, because we have height defined, it will focus on this height and not this height, because that is not part of its primary scope, or like what it's focused on right now. And if we run this, it should print 1 centimeter tall instead of 2.1. So this example was okay, but I feel like this second example covers it a bit better. So when we do this one, example 2. Okay, so example 2, we have the word confusion, constant word confusion, and we have print meaning, and then we have constant meaning nil, and we're just basically setting up this. We're just kind of building up to like one single. So basically, console log, the meaning is meaning and word. So it's going to be calling upon the variable word here, which is outside the scope of the function, but because so basically this function can see everything outside of its scope, to an extent. It can see everything outside of it or above it, but it can't see. But the thing is, word, like everything outside of, like, so everything within the function right here, like the article declaration of meaning, cannot be seen outside of the function print meaning. So print meaning can be used anywhere except here. So like when we try and print meaning here, it will throw an error because meaning is not defined and it's outside of scope. So when printed here, so we have these two same console logs right here. This will help you understand it better. So when we run it, we get the first one printing just fine. This one right here prints fine because it has access to word and meaning is defined within here. And we're running it and it prints it. But when we try and then print meaning, and like we try to do it again, meaning is not defined because it doesn't exist. It's never been declared here. And word has been declared because we still have access to it because they're on the same level, at the same level. So yeah, to summarize, function can see things outside of its scope as long as it's not within another function itself. But the thing is that if you want to but you can't see things inside a function scope if you're outside of the scope of the function. You would need to return that variable so that you can then use it, or yeah, no, that's pretty much it if you wanted to get that variable. You could probably do some other tricky things, but that's just general. Like you probably just want to return the value. Now, on to nested functions. Hold up one sec. Okay, I just need a drink of water. So we have nested functions. So essentially, nested functions are functions inside of functions, or a function that returns another function, something along those lines. So here we have our nested function, the word, and down here we're calling it, and we're telling it what it will print. But inside here, the word, we are returning everybody's heard. Everybody's heard. So the function everybody's heard is within this function. And let's say we really wanted the value inside of here. Like the value inside of here, the only way to get that value is to return it here. We would need to call the function, return it here, return it inside of it. Like if we wanted the bird, like here, we're turning this into, like we're making it into, we want to combine these words together. You could easily do this without having a nested function, but like for sake of example, so we're taking the function has what we need, the word bird, and so we're combining this all together that the bird is the word, and then we're returning everybody's heard. So we're taking these values that they had and then returning it here, and then we're printing it off here. So we're printing off the word, and the word is that the bird is the word. A bit confused. I shouldn't have done this example, but I thought it was funny in my head at the time. So when we run this, it should print the bird is not the word. That the bird is the word. And everybody knows about the bird. Everybody's heard. Yeah. Um. So yeah, this is a nested function. It's essentially a function that returns another function. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it other than that the lesson of scope applies here as well. So if we try to call console log bird here, bird, there we go. It won't matter where we put it, but I'm going to put it here anyway. It should now throw an error because, yeah, bird is not defined. But if we print bird inside of here, inside of the function, it should work just fine. Oop, not there. Here. It's a console log bird, that the bird is a word. So it should work fine. Yeah. So once again, scope applies, and that like bird can only be seen inside of this function, and word can be seen inside of this function. But if we tried to print word out here, it would not work. It wouldn't work as well. I don't need to demonstrate, but because I just showed it. But yeah. Thank you. This is everything.